money. He's promising this and he's stealing that. Where can you get that kind of money? He's using your house like his own piggy bank. You ought to know by now. You can pay off your house here in Illinois, but you can never keep up with the taxes. Oh, how it's always been the plan to have a taxpayer pay, no doubt. Not a matter of if anymore, but when. You're moving out. I said, when you're moving out.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. That theme music means it's time for our weekly confab with Ted Dabrowski, president of Wirepoints.org. All things Illinois policy related. Before we get to Ted, we do have to address this interview that Governor Jelly Belly did with two cut-and-paste suburban magpies about tax policy, among other things. And by the way, Pritzker looked resplendent. I don't know if you saw the video in that that tie that goes all the way down past his belly to another region he hasn't seen in 45 or 50 years. This is Jelly Belly comparing himself to Lincoln. A modest but fair comparison, no doubt.
So why do you think the billionaire class supports Donald Trump with his views, the backwardsness?
I always feel a little bit of defensiveness whenever I hear things like that, because I understand, as you know, I spoke on Tuesday night, and because of some schedule movement, I ended up speaking right after Bernie Sanders. and Bernie Sanders was, he's Bernie Sanders, right? And you know exactly what he's going to say, but he was railing against wealthy billionaires, And whenever I hear people sort of talk about the billionaire class, I know they're talking about other people, and not me, because I'm a progressive, right? And I really believe I tried to get a graduated income tax passed and put into our Constitution in the state of Illinois, because guess what? Wealthy people should pay a higher rate than average working people, right? I mean, that's just the way it is. By the way, Abraham Lincoln, a Republican, would be a Democrat today if he were alive, but a great Illinoisan. Abraham Lincoln was the first person to advocate for and get the federal government to institute a graduated income tax. So I only mention that because, I think there are people, like Elon Musk and kind of the little bit of that tech bro class who have decided that they know better how government ought to be than the rest of the country, and they ought to be in charge. And even though they are a small minority, they believe they can buy their way into control, and they're doing it with Donald Trump.
A guy who has spent $250-300 million over the last two cycles buying his way into the governor's mansion is decrying people trying to use their money to influence politics. I mean, it's outstanding. And of course, these two harridans who are central casting from Wilmette or Hinsdale are so daffy and dim-witted that they, just are sitting there, mouth agape, listening to whatever bilge spews from that sewer pipe that Pritzker calls a mouth. It's pathetic. By the way, just a little history lesson. Yes, Lincoln imposed the country's first income tax in 1861 to fund the war effort. It was repealed by Congress in 1872, because we haven't had a formal income tax provide and had its constitutionally upheld until 1914, of course. But I digress. So because of that, to fund the war effort, to unify the country and abolish slavery, he imposed a temporary income tax that was repealed a decade later. So that makes Pritzker Lincoln-esque, because he's doing it for sort of virtue signaling, window dressing reasons. In a state that is the worst governed state by the numbers in American history. It's so sickening. It's not sickening what he says. It's sickening that he gets away with it. He is such a mediocre flim-flam man. But Where's the opposition party? Oh, by the way, some other news that he'll just deny, and everybody will, well, half the people that are dead from the neck up will just go along with it. According to IRS data, that is, states ranked based on net migration of young households, age 26 to 35, households that earned at least $200,000 in that year of 2022, in which the data was analyzed. The biggest losers of young people that are upwardly mobile, young households with $200,000 or more in income, productive people doing well that you think you want. You want to stay and drop anchor and invest in your state and spawn offspring that do the same, right? You want to grow or you don't want to grow? Or we're committed to degrowth in Illinois? We're doing a good job. California, the number one loser. This is in just aggregate terms. Illinois would be number one in per capita terms because it's number two in aggregate terms. California, number one. Illinois, number two. Massachusetts, New York, and Pennsylvania. Golly gee, what do they all have in common? Biggest gainers of young people, young families making $200,000, household income $200,000. Florida, Texas. Of course. No state income taxes. Gee, what a shock. What a shock. The stuff that fat man gets away with. It's really, really something. This state is a death cult. You want to talk about Trump cult, and he's got everything so backwards. Trump has everything so backwards. You're living in the worst governed state in American history by the numbers. We could go through them if you want. I'm happy to come out to Naperville or Hinsdale or River Forest or wherever those two broads live. For more on this, Ted Dabrowski joins us now. Ted, thanks for being with us.
Hey, good morning, Dan. Good morning, Amy. I'm so glad you ran that video piece, and because I saw that a few days ago, and it's driven me crazy watching him say all that, and like you said, knowing, that no man like that, no man like him has bought his way into everything he's done. Right? He bought the first governorship, he bought the second governorship. He paid for Darren Bailey's campaign to try to bring him down. He's spending money in other states. He spent over $50 million on the progressive tax. Talk about a guy trying to buy his way into power and influence. He's the perfect example of that. So,
he's not a billionaire. He's not part of the billionaire class because he's a new Bolshevik. He calls it a progressive. Let's call it what it really is. He's a Bolshevik, so he's not part of the billionaire class. Excuse me, pardon me. That is the billionaire class. There are some exceptions to it, but I mean that is where the billionaire class is. They're financing the new Bolshevikism in part or in total. In total, if you're Soros, in part, if you're guys like Reid Hoffman.
Yeah, and then the way it's really also about, like you said, the way he does it, the way he says it, the way he gets away with it. It's just so smooth. Like he really, I don't know if he really believes it or not, but it is pretty impressive. And of course, the ladies there who laugh and everything, just let him get away with it.
They're just, I can't imagine what pathetic men. I just listened watching that. I wanted to say, I'd like to see what their husbands look like. I can't imagine how pathetic they are.
Well, so to go back to that,
sickening.
To the way he says all that is precisely why he gets away with managing one of the, like you said, probably you've never seen a state collapse like it has with the numbers and with the data like Illinois has, and yet he gets away by saying that he's running a great state, and it's another fantastic whopper from him. But these new numbers that we ran, the Smart Asset had run them the other day recently, but when you're losing your prime age 26 to 35, and it's the same, it looks exactly the same for 35 to 45-year-olds. You're losing your prime high earning people. These are your tax-paying people, right? If Governor Pritzker wants to have his, and Johnson, they want to have their agenda where they pay for everything, then you need taxpayers, and these are those, and they are fleeing Illinois. Not only one of the biggest loot flight in the country. Only California does worse for that young group. It's in record numbers. We're losing more and more of them. So it's really damaging. It's really damning to Pritzker and to the previous regimes who've run the state into the ground. We're losing our smart, mobile, capable, wealthy people.
But hasn't Illinois been bleeding this cohort for more than a decade? and it's just accelerated in the last few years.
Let's be clear, and we've been ignored on this. When you take the IRS data and you look at every single age bracket, right? Every single age bracket, young, old. You take every single income bracket, poor, rich. In every single one of those brackets, we're bleeding people net. Every single one. So we're losing. This is the same story we've been talking about, losing people. Now what we're doing is we're just honing in a little bit more on the young, wealthy, because Pritzker likes to say they're all coming in here for tech jobs. Well, this data shows the exact opposite. And yes, we've been losing them for more than a decade. It's just getting worse now.
And so the productive people leave, and he is Bernie Madoff to the lower income people. This analysis that you did over at wirepoints.org on the 15 communities in the south suburbs. These are majority lower income minority communities who have seen their residential property taxes jump by anywhere between 26 and 122% between 2022 and 2023. I mean, this is why the Southland is a demilitarized zone now, and the people that are left and can't get out, I mean, this is just, this is blood from a stone type of stuff right here. And it's one party, it's one philosophy, it's been that way for a long time. And what can you say? What can you say to a resident of Dixmoor that saw a 122% increase in their tax bill that we haven't said?
Yeah, and we're talking about families with really low incomes. You know, maybe the household income might be $40,000, and here you've got a doubling of taxes. You know, I spoke in Glendale down in South Cook this past weekend on Saturday, and you had a decent crowd, not a great crowd. I wish I'd seen more outrage, but I loved how a few people challenged us and said, "Hey, listen, we're tired of signing petitions. We're tired of talking about this. Let's take action." Which is kind of funny, right? Because it's just, like you said, it's the same people vote for the same yeah, they vote for the same politicians, and if they even kick the politician out, they put the same brand back in, and nothing changes. And you know, Pritzker promised property tax relief in his 2020 State of the Union speech, and he's done nothing except for let them go higher and higher. So people are frustrated, but this is another one of the reasons why people are leaving Illinois.
I mean, these numbers in these south suburban communities, we're talking Dixmoor, Phoenix, Harvey, Markham, Cal Park, East Hazelcrest, Thornton, Park Forest, but I mean, they're getting blitzed. Their homes are worth zero. Nothing. That's the reality. And so they are literally vassals, living on this Cook County government-owned land in communities that have already withered on the vine, that are unsafe, that lack opportunity. The schools are terrible. And yet here we go, drive productive people out who can do simple math and leave the state for the billionaire class of Bolsheviks that out of their racist white man's burden sense of honor and duty finance wards of the state. That's what Illinois, that's what Chicagoland is, and that's what Illinois is becoming.
I think coming back to the debate tonight, I think it's so important. I would like to argue that those of us who've been arguing for change in Illinois and who've been arguing for eventual fiscal discipline, et cetera, we started to get some traction in 2019 because the numbers, it was getting very difficult for Pritzker and guys like Johnson and Lightfoot to keep doing the same things because they were running out of money. And then COVID came along, the bailouts came along, and that changed everything. Well, we're starting to get back to that kind of environment where it's getting difficult. Chicago's having to freeze workers. They don't, Johnson has no idea what he's doing on the budget, and none of his team do. The pressure on Pritzker is going to start coming as well. And so now the question is, does somebody like Kamala Harris get elected and again try to do new types of bailouts? They won't call them bailouts, but it'll be big money for blue cities, big blue states. Or does Trump win and you try to force some fiscal discipline? So this election matters a lot, I think, to what Chicago and Illinois' trajectory is.
Ted Dabrowski, president of Wirepoints, wirepoints.org, all things Illinois policy related. Thanks, Ted.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Hear about the big stories of the day, then talk about them right here on Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
AM 560 listeners, sign up today to receive a free financial education video series, The 5 Retirement Pitfalls and How to Avoid Them, courtesy of Steve Shyman, host of Protecting Your Assets radio show, Saturdays at 8 a.m. Sign up is easy, and the 5-part video series is completely free and will